Hello, everybody. Very good evening to all of you. How are you all doing? We are back again today, and we are back again with the conversation which we have been doing a series of Unlock with M2M Unplugged. We are trying to get topics which are hardly spoken about or talked about, and the mommies in our community really need us to take over those topics. And we've been doing polls, and we've been asking people that which kind of topics we should take, or if this is the topic, what is it that you want us to talk about. So today we have come with a very very interesting topic, and we are talking about how to talk about sexuality with your kids, how to introduce them or how to take their questions and stuff like that. Joining us today are amazing panelists who one is joined us from Delhi, who's Anupama, and she is a sexuality expert and a relationship expert. And we have Malwa, who's joining us all the way from Canada back again. She's already been there with us in one of the panels, who's an amazing speaker, and back again today. She is with us, and she will be throwing some light on this topic. So let's welcome both of them here, and let's get to know more about them. Very good evening, Malwa. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. So good to see you, and I love your passion about parenting, which is not seen, in everybody like how you are. You're so passionate about parenting and stuff. So very warm welcome to you, Malwa. And I want the audience who has joined us would like to know more about you, Malwa. If you can just give a brief introduction about yourself.
Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm super pleased to be here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, for watching either live or on replay, because we will for sure want this topic to be spread to as many people as possible, especially moms and parents, because this is who this topic is aimed to. My name is Malva Gasowski. My business is based in Canada, and that is where most of my experience comes from as well. Although I am what they call an international parenting expert and trainer, which means that I actually have customers and people that I cooperate with all over the world, taking into account also cultural differences. So I will be touching on some of these things as well. I am very, to be honest, honored and joyful to be here, because the conversation on sexuality is not just for the pleasure of sex, but there are other things that are very important that we as parents are responsible to address with our children. So this is something that I want everyone to focus on today. It's not only about pleasure, but it's about sometimes health as well. So make sure to tune in.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry, I was muted, I guess. Anupama, can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah, so a
Jyoti.
very warm
Yeah,
welcome to you, Anupama, and great to have you here. And if you just, can give a brief introduction about yourself to all our audience, would be great.
sure. So for passion, I have been researching in sexuality and relationships, and I've been working with communities primarily in India for the last almost 15 years. But professionally, I work as a content researcher, and the perspective that I will be bringing in will be more around the challenges that younger people have in terms of how to come out to their parents, what to tell their parents, what to ask their parents. And so I'll probably be complementing what Marwa will be sharing from her parenting expertise point of view, and I'll be talking more about what children have been asking and what they've been reaching out for.
We are very happy to be able to see you, Juti. We would also love to hear you. There we go.
I've got so excited that sometime I'm forgetting to unmute my mic. Can you hear me now, Malva? Yeah. So there are so many questions. My daughter is 8.5 now, and there've been so many times that she comes up with questions, and I don't have answer about. I'll just share a small incident which happened recently with me. So she was talking to me, and she was asking me which company you worked with, Mama, in UK. I was in UK some time back, and she was asking me which company you worked with, and I just said that I worked with Virgin. And that Virgin word she got because she has been hearing that word in movies, and then she came back to me asking what does that mean. And literally I tried to explain her in a very simple format, saying that it means pure and untouched and something like that. But she had constantly felt that I have not explained it to her, or there is something which I am hiding. And then she googled, and then she came back again saying that, Mama, this has more meanings to it, and you didn't explain me properly. So kids today are very, very aware of what is happening around, and we have to really take the questions in the right way when they are asking. And well, I'm very glad to have you all, and I'm sure a lot of parents are joining today. And all the parents, a very warm welcome to all of you. If you have any questions during this conversation, you're free to put it in the live comments. And I know this word sex itself is difficult to reply. Even the word comes and we are like, we don't know what to reply to our kids. So my first question I'll put to Malwa, and we will be discussing about, like, what is the right time when we should talk about the private parts, and how should we explain them that this is also a part of your body. And how should we go in and get started with it from the early ages. Let's begin, Malwa, because there are a lot of moms who have the younger kids, and then we move towards the elder kids would be a better way to take this talk ahead. Malwa, over to you.
Well, first and foremost, why are we differentiating sexual organs like breasts, penis, and vagina from hair, eyes, nose? There is no difference, okay? Which means we have them, we should take care of them, and we should know what they're for. Okay, so what does it mean? If we as parents even think about differentiating or separating the two things, then this is where the anxiety that we have is going to go and overflow onto our children, and our children won't know what's their problem, right? Exactly the same reaction that your daughter had. Because if she had come to you and said, Mommy, how come there is snot coming out of my nose? You would say, well, most likely you've got a bacteria, or you've got an infection or an allergy. Let's see what we can do about it. I will help you. This is, why do I have snot? Well, because this is how your body's trying to clear out the dirt that is up there. And the viruses are being fought by your body. So your answer would be as specific and medical as you can, and you would not feel flustered. But because she asked about what is virginity, instead of actually telling her it's a membrane inside your body, making sure that you are protected as a young child against infection, and it is something that adults use later on in their vocabulary of speaking, that is used in the context of sexual initiation. If that's all you had answered her, I believe she'd be more satisfied than it's something that shows your purity. So does that mean when I'm riding a horse and then I bleed because my membrane pops, does that mean I'm impure now? No, it doesn't. So instead of making it into a spiritual thing, think about it, parents, moms, dads, as something that is natural. Just like you tell your son and daughter, brush your teeth, in that same way, you're going to tell your son and daughter, son, you have to open the foreskin of your penis and wash what's underneath there, just like you would wash your hair and your armpits. And then, daughter, you have to wash your parts as well. So wash your vagina, make sure you move everything out and wash it out. So that's the whole thing. You need to understand as a parent that there's no difference between one part of the body and the other. There's only a gentleness in which we should treat it. So you wouldn't put a stick in your eye and you wouldn't put a stick in your mouth. So, you wouldn't hit someone with a stick. So, there are things that you need to understand. There are certain areas that need to be taken into account when you are actually addressing these issues, but they're nothing to be flustered about, because you have them, your children have them, your parents have them, and every other person on earth has them as well. It's normal. Make sure that we treat it as a normal topic.
Absolutely, Malva. And we keep giving different names to the body parts, and we don't even want to take the names. And that's absolutely, we shouldn't do it, is what is discussed always, because we try to name different names or easy names for kids, and we don't call it a penis or a vagina for that matter. And I think we need to make it very simple, like every other body part, as you mentioned. And that's very critical. I think every moms would agree with me. I go back to Anupama and I take her on.
Just a sec about the names. So I had a client who had an issue with her son, because for whatever reason, she started calling her son's penis when he was little, Mike. Oh, we got to cover little Mike. And then this child went to preschool and his friend's name was Mike. And this child was flustered, shocked. He didn't know how to address his friend, and how did it actually have any connection with his body part. So it actually hurt the child. Another mother that I had talked to and had to work with, and her child as well, she called her child's penis a sausage. And then a few days later, she gave him sausage for breakfast, and he didn't want to eat it because he didn't want to eat someone else's body part. Because in his head, it was someone else's body part that he was eating on that plate. So again, parents, it's much less drastic for your children in the long run if you just use medical names and medical vocabulary, just like you would say finger instead of branch, just like you would say nose instead of, I don't know, sniffer, for example. So make sure that you are as simple as you can get.
I think very informative, Malva. It's very important to use the correct names. I go over to Anupama. Anupama, my question to you is, what is the right age when we should talk to kids about sexuality? So can we begin from that question? Over to you, Anupama.
Thank you, Jyotiji. I think the right age is exactly the same age when you start training your child how to wash themselves in the loo, how to, bathe by themselves. The minute they start taking control of their independent bodies, I think that's actually the right time when you start, like Malva said, you need to start using the word penis for penis, and you need to start using the word vagina for vagina. And in India, of course, we see a lot of this. We call it beta tumhara nu, some terms and slangs like that. We need to stop doing that, right? And girls ke saath, the good thing is that once we start having, like, mothers are forced to speak to the child, even though they might not be comfortable with it, because a girl child is going to have periods. But I don't think you need to wait till that point. I think you need to start pretty early. You need to start, I'd say something like a 6 or a 7 in the Indian, even if you want to kind of take the whole social structure into consideration. And I'm talking more from the Indian point of view because I know that the cultural differences are quite significant between different audiences around the globe. And that's one thing. And the second thing is we avoid talking about sexuality to our young boys because, the girl is going to get a period, so we are going to educate her, but the boy doesn't show a physical manifestation, say, apart from growing a mustache or a beard. So we push the conversation to as late as possible, and I think that's very detrimental. One of the other ways to do it is, of course, now we have sex curriculum, sex education as a part of the curriculum, but maybe it's a good idea to look into your children's textbooks and see what is being taught rather than leaving it all to the teacher. So I think 6, 7 is a good age, and when your children start washing themselves, maybe earlier, because once they start going to the school, once they start using the washroom in the school, once they start using the loo in the school, which is like 3.5, 4.5 probably, even that might not be a bad age, as shocking as it might sound to a lot of moms out there.
So how do we begin to explain that? If we just go, we can go a little bit in depth, that when we talk about sex or sexuality, how do we begin to explain that part to our kids? And what is the easiest way in which, they pick up the positive part of it, and they are not misleaded in that matter? So can you throw some light on that also, Anupama?
See, so I'll tell you from how we approach the children in our fraternity and our communities, and how I was approached by my parents. So, I remember I was 3.5, and my mother used to wake me. She used to get me ready for the school. And of course, like all old parents, we had our own pet names for vagina, and for eventually when I had breasts, for breasts as well. But now, what we do with the children in the community, with the children of friends and everybody, is that when we're washing them, when we're bathing them, that's when, or when you're first describing to them, this is your head, this is your nose, this is your neck, then you move downwards and you say, okay, this is your stomach, and then you move to your thighs and you say, these are your thighs, and this is your vagina, or this is your penis. And I think it's as simple as that. Usse zyada complicated usme kuch bhi nahi hai. There's nothing more complicated than that. Uh, Part of the problem is that as adults, even we hesitate in using the words as freely as we should. And because it's our mental block, we end up projecting the same mental block on the children as well. तो अगर adults की तरह I can talk to, say, my partner or my spouse about his penis and about my vagina in so many words, then it's also easy to become, you don't, like she pointed out, you don't tell your children कि ये तुम्हारा sniffer है. This is something that you smell with. You tell them it's your nose. So honestly, उसमें it's, you just have to start doing it. It's just an initial barrier, but once you start doing it, it becomes a habit.
I think very well explained, Anupama. If we take it in a very simple way, and we take it like other body parts, I think there is actually no issue, but we make it a whole thing. And because we keep on hiding it under a blanket, it becomes a big deal, I guess. And that's where they become more curious, because as what I have seen with kids, or their toddlers, or whatever age they are, whatever you tell them you don't have to do, or this is not for you, they really want to know what exactly that is, and how to find out. They would reach out to different people. So it's always better, they say, that find out the solutions and keep asking questions from your parents, and parents should be answering it. So I go to Malwa, and my next question to Malwa is, should we talk about sex to kids, and if yes, to what extent we should discuss about it, Malwa?
Definitely, but we have to take into consideration what is sex. Okay? For me, sex is gender. For me, sexuality is how I feel with my gender. And for me, having sexual intercourse is something completely different. So your question, should we talk about sex? Absolutely. This is a boy, this is a girl. She is a female, he is a male. She has breasts and a vagina, he's got a penis. We talk about this as soon as the children start asking questions. And the first questions that children ask are at the age of more or less 2.5, when they start to compare. So when my daughter runs into the bathroom and I'm taking a shower, she's going to say, ooh, I would like, and then 3 dots. Okay. So she's saying, I would like long hair. I want to be as tall as you. I want my breasts to be as big as you because I'm a girl too. And so, she starts comparing. And at the age of 2.5, this is when you start telling them, you're just a little girl. As soon as your body's ready, you will grow as well. You will grow your hair, you will grow your body, you will grow your hips. And you try to explain to your child every single thing that is happening, boy or girl. And to be honest, because I have 3 children and the youngest 2 are very close in age, they are so okay with knowing the body parts. They're fine with it. And there's no shame in having any shape, size of body. And we shouldn't shame our children for having one or another body part. So your aunt's question, should we talk about sex? Absolutely, because it's a body part. Should we talk about sexuality? How comfortable we are with our own body parts. This is where other factors come into play. Are you Are you aligned? Meaning, is your body the same as your mind? Because there are certain people now who are transgender or who are gay, and they're not aligned and they're not comfortable with what they are, with what they were given or how they were born, and that is a completely different topic. So the question is, how comfortable are you within your own body? How comfortable is your son or daughter with their body? That is the second question. And the third question, should we talk about sexual intercourse, and at what age? At the age when your children feel the need or the curiosity. Okay? For some, it comes at the age of 2. Mommy, where do babies come from? This is their first question about sexual intercourse. So you give them as much information as they need. No, babies do not come from a stork. You don't find them in a cabbage field. No, babies come from mommy's bellies. Do you want to see a picture of when you were in mama's belly? Yes. So you take the photo album out and you show that. So this is your first sex talk. The second sex talk maybe will be, Mommy, but how does the baby get in there? Well, when mommy and daddy make a decision to have a baby, that is when mommy and daddy maybe go to the doctor to prepare their body for having a baby, and then we decide to have a baby. Oh, okay, that's enough. Maybe a few years later, the same question will come, Mommy, but what, you just make a decision? No, there's an egg and there's a seed or a sperm that needs to be connected in order for our body to create the baby. Okay, just like you, for example, plant a tomato seed in a pot, then you make sure that you take care of it, and then when it's ready, you pick the tomato and eat it. That's just like when the baby is ready to come out of mama's belly, we have a baby. Oh, okay. Then years pass and there be additional questions as, Mom, but how does that seed actually get inside your belly? Do you have to swallow it? Well, no, it doesn't go in as food. That's not how you make babies. Okay, there are many ways. And again, make sure that you understand how comfortable and how old your child is. There are many ways children have babies. And if you're not comfortable with actually getting into the details, say there is in vitro, there is surrogacy, there is adoption, and there is natural conception. And then when they ask, what are these things? Then you start answering them. And again, just like Anupama said, maybe look at the textbooks, the ones that are age appropriate, to actually help you understand what we can give to our children from a medical perspective for them to know. Now, yes, it's a lot of work, Mom and Dad. The question is, what happens if you don't put that work into it? The answer is, your children have access to smartphones. They have access to Google. Do you really want your children to get their first sexual experience and information from hardcore porn? Absolutely. And that is something that is easily accessible. There's more damage in having left that and them accessing it than you actually having to work with them.
I think absolutely very true, Malva. It's better to answer them and explain them. And I think you explained it so beautifully, to take that in parts and, grow it little bit, and you answer also, and they have that curiosity also. That's amazing way to, make little tiny babies understand everything which is complicated for them to take in one go. I think very well explained, Malva. I go to Anupama back again, and my question to you, Anupama, is what can be discussed beyond a good touch and bad touch? So if you can throw some light on that, because when babies grow a little bit, this is a very, very important topic. I know schools also have been covering it a lot, but as we are mommy communities and they're always worried about their kids. So can you touch upon this, question?
Thank you, Jyotiji. I think this whole concept of good touch, bad touch, what we need to probably rephrase it to is comfortable touch and uncomfortable touch. Because the minute you bring in good and bad, you bring in morality. So if I have been subjected to uncomfortable touch, does that make me bad? Does that create a crisis for me in how I look at myself and how I perceive my body? Does that drive shame for me? So that's one. And what do you talk beyond that? When you talk of safety, you can also touch upon a little bit about sex, about, so when I say sex, I'm talking of intercourse here. You can touch up depending on the age of the child, depending on their level of curiosity, depending on what do you want to teach them about. And that'll always vary. That'll vary from household to household. There are no sure, we can say that a generic benchmark would be, say, 2.5, 3, 4.5, whatever. But there's no hard age for it. But that said, apart from that, you might also want to talk about the different kinds of families. So there are families where there are single moms. There are families where there are single dads. Similarly, there are families where there are gay fathers, and then there are mothers. And when you put it out in a harmless way, where you say कि बेटा एक फैमिली में मम्मी पापा और भैया दीदी होते हैं, किसी दूसरी फैमिली में सिर्फ मम्मी और बच्चा होता है, मम्मी और बेबी होती है, there's another family जहाँ पे सिर्फ पापा और बेबी होते हैं. वैसे ही दो पापा वाली फैमिली भी हो सकती है, दो मम्मी वाली फैमिली भी हो सकती है. तो द चाइल्ड डजंट feel shocked when they first see a lesbian relationship or a gay relationship or a queer relationship in general. So I think teaching them via the family structure is a very good way to introduce them to the non-binary, which is beyond just the medical stuff. And then, of course, there is the hygiene that you want to talk about. You also want to talk about how to clean themselves up, what to do, what not to do, and who to come to if they are hurt, who should be their first point of contact in school, who should be their first point of contact at home. What if the mother is not around? Who else can they reach out to? So I think when you start putting those conversations into picture, when you start putting that structure into place, the child also starts feeling safer and comfortable around their bodies and around what's happening to them and around the fact that they will have support when they need it. So it makes them feel less scared, it makes them feel less confused. So to answer your question, like in bullet points, you could talk to them about LGBTQ in terms of family structures. You could talk to them about hygiene. You could talk to them about who to reach out to. You could also talk to them about what words to use and what words not to use, for instance. So if I were 12 and I walked up to a teacher and I said, oh, I suspect I have a cancer because I'm bleeding, the teacher would know because she's a teacher, but then that's not how my mother taught me to speak. She said, beta, if this happens, then you want to walk up to a teacher and ask her, ma'am, may I have a sanitary napkin? I think I have my period. Now, because my mother said it in so many words, I was actually capable of dealing with that situation way better than I probably would have otherwise. So I think the language also plays an important role. What words you use with your children will also tell them what to use in their conversations with other people. So these three, four things are what you can teach them beyond just the good touch, bad touch.
I've always been seeing, Anupama, that once we answer one question, they are ready with the next, and once we answer the next, they are ready with the third, and we don't know till where it reaches. It just gets on very difficult. For me, it does. I don't know about all of you, but it does get, as and when I'm answering, the curiosity keeps on increasing. So when to shut them, and should we actually shut them, or how do we conclude that conversation is something I always struggle with. So if you can just guide me how to deal with that scenario would be really helpful.
So my youngest brother is 10 years younger to me. And I remember I was some 16 and he was some 6 years old, and we were watching a TV and there was this sanitary napkin ad that was displaying. And the 6-year-old child asks, oh, what is this and why is this used? Whisper kya hota hai? And the parents and uncles and aunts, and we were a joint family and we were all sitting together, and all the adults sort of froze into that moment. And I knew that one thing that we have to acknowledge is children are very sensitive. They know when you're lying and they know when you're shutting them up. So if you try to shut them up, like Malva said, they have the access to information way more than you do. They will figure out somehow or the other. So when to shut them up, I don't think shutting them up is a good idea to begin with. What you can certainly do is you can, at some point where you start feeling very uncomfortable, you might want to end up saying, uh, baby, right now you're 6. This is how your body is. When you grow up, you will know a lot of these answers. Can we have this conversation again in 15 days? That is a better way rather than saying, oh, this is not an appropriate question. And then and of course, then there are experts that you can reach out to. You can reach out to child psychologists. You can reach out to the teachers who teaching the sex ed curriculum. You can reach out to professionals like Malva, and you can actually ask them, hey, you know what,
I
this
think
is
that's a
what I. Sure,
I
you
think
were
that's a
saying
very
something.
good way to tell them to talk about it again after 15 days. I think that will really help me and most of the mommies who are listening to us. And while we're talking about questions, you can also share what kinds of questions your kids are asking you, at what age they are, and how you've been dealing with. So you can type in the chat box, and we'll be reading out few if we can help you out with any of the questions, any of the most difficult questions you are dealing with, or any of the simple questions you're dealing with would be great. So do share with us in the live chat. And I go to Malva back again, and again I have so many questions to Malva, but because we have time bound, so I'll just put in my next question. That Malva, how the lack of knowledge about sexuality and lack of conversation, the open conversation, which don't usually have. I know there is a lot of cultural differences between you are from Canada and we are from India. There are bigger families, they have grandparents, they have so many people. So what does it affect a kid when we don't have open conversation happening with the family members about this topic? So how do the parents deal with it, and what is the effect on the kids? So can you touch upon both the questions? Would be great for us, Malva.
Well, first and foremost, the moment you are uncomfortable as a parent yourself, you are surprised, you're stunned, you don't know what is happening. Just like Anupama said, that is the moment they tune in. It's almost like their radars go ding, 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 ding. This is a topic I want to know more about. Okay? If it's making mom and dad uncomfortable, I love it. How can I get more info? Okay? So first of all, chill out, breathe, and if they're surprised and you're surprised, ask them, honey, why do you want to know? That question, why do you want to know, is enough for you to actually listen to them and gather yourself. Okay, so for example, just today I had a 35-minute meltdown from my 4-year-old because she cried to me that she doesn't ever want to be a mommy. What can she do to decide not to ever be a mommy? So I had to tell her, sweetheart, why is it that you're asking this question, that you don't want to be a mommy ever in your life? And she said, because you never have time to watch TV and you're always busy. You never have time to just play on the PS4. I don't like video games. That's why I never have time for it. And I'm like, okay, so if this is the reason why you don't have a mommy, you don't want to be a mommy, that's fine. You don't have to make a decision to be a mommy today. You still have time. But what do I do as an adult if I don't want to be a mommy? Then I gave her the best answer I could think of at that moment. And it was true. If you are an adult and you're ready to be a mommy, when your body's ready to be a mommy and you choose not to be a mommy, you go to the doctor, and just like you go to the doctor and he gives you medication when you have a runny nose, the doctor will give you medication so you don't have a baby, because a baby is a decision. And she's like, all right, I'm good. And she was fine. Because of that, she got the answer that she needed. So when it comes to children, lack of communication is going to actually have emotional baggage on the children. Furthermore, it's going to have emotional baggage on the parents in the long run as well. For example, there was a very big issue at preschool a few years back that I was cooperating with. And there were psychologists, there were counselors, there were sex experts and religion experts called in, the principal and vice principal. There was a whole panel of people called in, and I was called in as well. And because there was a little girl who was 4 years old who was masturbating every 5 minutes during lessons. And all these brains were sitting there and finding reasons of how to talk to this child, how to talk to the parents, and, slap the child on the hand or not. And I'm listening to these people and I'm like, a 4-year-old child, a girl, doesn't go around openly masturbating herself in front of everyone. That doesn't happen, okay? No, it doesn't. Psychologically and physically, that doesn't happen. So what I did, I'm like, listen, you children, everybody stop. Just stop what you're doing and think. Have you as a parent, gone to the doctor to see if your daughter has a yeast infection? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so you call 7 people from different areas, almost having a spiritual gathering over your child's masturbation, when the only thing that the child has a problem with is a yeast infection, just like you would have a hole in your tooth or an ear infection. She needs cream, she needs drops, and she's good to go. She has no psychological issues. Okay, let's finish this meeting. Mom, dad, you take your child to the doctor, come back in 6 days and tell me if it's gone away. They come back in 6 days hugging me and crying because they were ready to go to a psychiatrist with that child, give that child medication to lower her sexual drive. And I'm like, oh my God, mom, dad, if you would just ask your child the question, honey, why are you touching yourself? She would tell you because it stings or it itches. And mom, that should be a sign. Ding, ding, ding. If it stings, if it itches, open your legs, honey, let me see. Then you should have medication at home accessible to help your child. If you're ashamed to touch her body parts, then put on a glove, or tell your daughter when she is 2, 3, 4, she's able to take care of her own body and up. Here's the cream. Here's how to use it, and you'll be fine. So this is, for example, an example of a consequence of lack of education, communication, and lack of questions. So you are able to solve a lot of problems for yourself and other people if you just ask, why are you doing this? Why are you asking? How can I help? Do you need information? That's all. And then going forward, there will be less hassle, less consequences, less of projection, because a lot of adults project their fears, their own sexuality onto children, and they think that this is what they're doing, but the children are not even there mentally and physically. So mom, dad, make sure that you know how to approach from the baby steps. Don't make it into a big mountain.
I think that's very correct, that if we take it from the beginning, I think that makes it easy, Malwa. Very well explained. And I love the way you always bring in examples, and that's make it very simplified and we understand that. And there is this question coming up from Meenu, who's joined in, Meenu Sharma. She's saying that I'm fed up with the intimate scenes showing every now and then in almost every serial. We usually sit together and watch TV, and my son is 11-year-old. This is my question too from both of you, because you both have joined in today. And every time this happens, I don't know what to do. How should I deal with the entire scenario and the situation? How should a parent react is what will be my question to both of you. So we can start with Malwa, and then we go to Anupama.
The question is, how old is your child? If your child is up to 7 or 8, you should not be watching these series with the child. Okay, so let's look at mom, dad. What is your choice of videos or films that you're watching with your children? Okay, if you are watching videos, series with your children that are making you uncomfortable in the presence of your child, you are automatically making your child uncomfortable in your presence. And with the emotional bonding experience, this is not good for the future. If your child is older, 10, 11, 12, and there are kissing scenes, just smooch, that should be fine. Furthermore, your child should actually see you giving affection to your partner as well on a daily basis, so that shouldn't shock them. If there are more intimate scenes, let's say with nakedness, and you don't really want or you don't really feel your child is ready, pause it and say, sweetheart, I don't think you're ready to watch this. How about we fast forward? Or if you have any questions, how about we stop it now? Let's sit down and talk and see what happened. And ask your child, what did you see? What do you feel happened? And are you okay with us talking about it? Because just like you, mom and dad, you might be uncomfortable with talking about sexuality or sexual contact. So can your child, okay? So make sure that if there is a conversation, don't force your child into having one with you, because they will just shut down and make it more uncomfortable. Make sure that they're comfortable with it as well. So again, firstly answering, make sure mom and dad, you know that you are okay with watching the series. And if you're not okay, then change the series. Number 2, if you're not comfortable and you see your child's uncomfortable, stop it, fast forward, and come into a conversation. And thirdly, if you are open to actually watching other people be intimate with each other to whatever level with your child sitting right next to you, make sure you talk to him or her about it later on, about the safety, about what is happening, about what would you do in that situation, because this is your way of actually teaching your child to be responsible, to protect their body from sexually transmitted diseases, for safety, not to be, let's say, accused of sexual harassment, or, for example, to protect them from unwanted pregnancies. So conversation.
Well explained, Malva. Over to you, Anupama. The same question, that if we all are sitting together and you know how Indian families are, and we're watching a series or a serial or a movie, nowadays everything has too much, scenes like that. So how should a family, basically moms are listening to us, how should they deal with the entire scenario? The question was put up by Meenu, who has an 11-year-old son. So maybe you can take the reference and please answer that question for us.
Thanks, Jyoti ji. I think, like Malwa, she put it out brilliantly, saying that it depends on how old your child is. अगर आपका बच्चा बहुत छोटा है, तो आप अपने बच्चे के साथ बैठ के सेक्रेट गेम्स देख ही क्यों रहे in the first place? Why aren't you watching something which is more child appropriate? That's one. आप अगर इस गलत फहमी में, if you're under some kind of assumption that your child doesn't have an access to porn, and if you think this is too much graphic content being displayed, most likely your 12-year-old son has already watched porn on some or the other drive with a friend or a phone or somewhere. So please stop underestimating your children as well, is one thing that I want to tell you. Your children are sharp children, they're bright children, they're young children, and they are children with access to information way more than you have. And she's demonstrated it enough, and I'm almost on the verge of repeating it. So once you keep this in mind, then having conversations becomes easier. And you want to have the conversation about graphic content, not just when you're watching it or after you've watched it, but also before you're watching it. So TV के लिए भी, when your child is watching a series, you tell your children, beta, up to 13, up to 12, this is the kind of content we are going to watch. After that, आप थोड़े बड़े हो जाओगे, you will become a little older. Then we'll also watch other things. We will have a talk about it. We will have a conversation about it. And if you don't want to have a conversation with me about it, tell me so that I can give you something to read about it, because then you can choose what your child reads and where they get their source of what their source of information is. Have good content handy. When I say good content, I'm not talking of moralistic content about masturbation galat hai ya masturbation sahi hai. I'm talking of healthy content around masturbation healthy है कि नहीं है या normal है कि नहीं है. So when your conversations start changing, then you're comfortable, then you're more comfortable talking about before you watch that series rather than after you do that, because what you're doing afterwards is important as post processing, but in Indian scenarios it often ends up becoming more of a damage control than the actual education. So हमारे सिनेरियो में हम लोगों के लिए बेस्ट यही है कि हम बच्चे को पहले सेंसिटाइज करें कि बेटा कुछ मूवीज ऐसी होती हैं जिनमें कुछ सीन्स होते हैं जो बच्चों को बाद में देखने चाहिए. वंस यू बिकम अ सर्टेन एज, वंस योर बॉडी डेवलप्स, देन दे मोर अप्रोप्रिएट. एंड सो जब भी ऐसे आएंगे, सो लेट्स हैव अ डील, जब भी ऐसा कोई सीन आएगा मम्मा फास्ट फॉरवर्ड कर देगी और फिर हम when you grow up a little, we'll watch that movie again. So that's how I would approach it, and I think conversations are a key. I think both of us are emphasizing on conversation and communication
So now we have
constantly
one
with
question
our kids.
coming in from the audiences, Anupama, which says
Yeah.
advertisement for condoms also comes in between while they are watching anything. How do they answer to that, to a girl or a boy?
I find the simplest way to answer about any condom questions, my simplest approach to that is that when people grow up and they want to be affectionate towards each other, they, they experience intimacy, they make love, and they need protection. And so condom is what you use for protection then. How do we use it? Well, when you grow up, when you need to use it, you will know. Then I will talk about it, or then maybe you will go to a doctor and figure out how to use it. But for now, it's like जब आपके पैर में जब आपका nose run कर रहा होता है, तो we give you a hanky to clean it, to wipe it. Similarly, it's a protection that you use, and well, once you grow up, you'll know more. So I think talking about it from the safety perspective, talking about it from the health perspective, from the point of view of protection, gives them more perspective rather than talking about it. Oh, isse babies पैदा नहीं होते हैं. So you don't need to get into the baby conversation immediately. You can always talk about infections, and you can always talk about diseases rather than that.
I think well answered, and we understood that very well. Malva, I think if you also want to take up that question and explain it, that how should we answer about a condom ad while we are watching anything which was for the age group of the child, but in between the condom ads and the tampons ad and the sanitary napkins ad come in between, and kids have a lot of curiosity. How do we take the question for the condom for a boy or a girl, that what exactly this thing is, mommy?
Well, when it comes to, let's say, sanitary pads, you have to be open as a mom and dad. Like, listen, I have a headache, my belly hurts. Why does it hurt? Because I have my period. Okay. So that is also something that you as a mom need to make sure that your children respect you, because during your menstruation, you do feel weaker at times, or the different people go through that, or different women go through that on a big scale of I feel amazing versus I just need to lie down for 2 days and leave me alone. So again, you need to address that this is something that is normal. Having sanitary pads and having, let's say, panty liners, if you have access to them at home, trust me, your children have already been in there and they've already seen it. And the only reason they're asking you is they are sometimes testing you to see if you're going to tell them the truth. Okay? Mind you, if your children ask you specific questions, this means they know the answer. They're testing mom and dad. Will mom and dad tell me the truth when I ask them a question? So you have to ask yourself, mom and dad, the question is, mom, what is that? Or more specific, how do I use a condom? And this is that, okay, so first of all, they know what the name is. And second of all, they have registered it. And third of all, why don't you just answer them just like Anupama said, through the health perspective? Just like you wear a glove to be warm in winter, not to get, frostbite. You would need to, as a man or a teenage boy, you would need to use a condom in order to protect yourself. Now, I'm not sure about India, so mind you, I'm sorry if I'm saying something wrong, but advertisements for condoms and for example, the pill are set at a later date in Europe and in North America, so they are not supposed to be aired before 10 p.m. I don't know how the situation is with public TV in India, but if they are airing after 10 p.m.
It's the same in India. It's the same in India. It's not, aired during the day. It's the later day. But then maybe, we are not following the timetables to have kids sleep early, and we are watching late night TVs.
Okay, I was just wondering if it's freely accessible out of curiosity. Now, when it comes to the condoms, again, if your child is, let's say your child is 11 and he or she is asking, that means he or she needs the answers. Okay. The question is, you should ask, honey, why are you asking me this? What do you need the answer for? Because if they're going to say, well, Maria already told me about it, but I'm not sure if it's true, then okay, before we have to get into damage control, it's better to give them information. Furthermore, the word damage control means, again, mom, dad, are you more comfortable talking to your child or giving your child access to information prior to a problem? Or would you like your 12, 13-year-old child, daughter or boy, to be a mom or dad? Ask yourself that question. My answer is, I will give you all the information you need about condoms, about pills, about contraception, about spirals. I will give you everything. Just please don't be pregnant at 12, 13, okay? Because that is life-changing. So from my perspective, I'm going to shake you, mom and dad. But the whole situation is you have a choice. You want your 12-year-old to be pregnant with a child? You want to be a grandma or a grandpa? Or are you okay to start to have a conversation? I would personally advise a conversation. Now, mom, dad, sorry, I'm just going to shake them a little bit because this is exactly what the consequence of the lack of conversation. Now, the second thing is, mom, dad, having conversation, any single conversation with your child starts with you. Just like Anupama and I said, if you're uncomfortable, your children will sense that. So a little homework for every single one of you. Okay, get naked, get your husband or partner naked, sit down and start talking about body parts for only 10 minutes. If you're not comfortable with that, you will not be comfortable talking with your child about it. So make a test, and every week, once a week for this next month, let's make it sex talk with your partner. Mind you, it'll be amazing for the two of you, but it will be amazing also for you to get acquainted with the comfort level of talking about body parts that you will later be able to feel confident to talk to your child about it.
Very well explained, Anupama and Malva. I think all the mommies are there. There's so many comments in the live chat, and they're really loving this conversation because this is something which is not much spoken about. I don't know too much about Canada, but yes, in India we don't discuss it too much openly, and because of that, kids go here and there and try to find out answers to their question, because curiosity is not very good. If you don't find answers, you are going to google it out, or you'll reach to the wrong people. You might reach the watchman, you might reach to any friends who don't know. So it's always better to have open conversation, and again Anupama and Malva are focusing on to have an open conversation. So now I come back to a situation, Anupama. They've always been talks about moms seeing the teenager, maybe the boy or a girl, watching porn, and they suddenly react up to that level in which the kid starts feel guilty, and there is a kind of rift between the parent and a child. How to deal with the entire scenario, if you explain us openly, would be very very helpful for the people, because they don't even want to discuss those things with their relatives or their friends or their family, because they feel their child has done something wrong. And everybody goes through that age, and goes through that situation. How should they be dealing as a mom, is what my question is to both of you today.
So, one thing, like Malva said in a previous answer, is that you ask them why are they doing it? What is it that they are trying to find? What is it that they are trying to achieve from it? Um, did Jyoti get knocked off?
That's okay. It's just us for now.
Oh,
And there,
yeah.
carry on, Anupama. I'm there. I'm there.
So one thing that we need to figure out is why they are doing it, and the best thing to do is not guess it for yourself, but to ask them. If their response is, "Oh, I saw a friend watching this, and so I thought maybe I'll watch it," and then you can ask them to the next, "So how did you feel after you watched it?" Because most children who watch porn begin it either with peer pressure or because they're curious. But then the body is going to behave the way the body is going to behave, and you have to acknowledge that your children will grow up, they will have their hormones raging, they will get aroused, they will want to masturbate, and you can do two things. Either you can channelize it constructively, or you can drive shame and guilt and resentment. Um, because pregnancy for unmarried women is really, really looked down upon, and we don't have support here. So, Malva, our problems are slightly different. I'll just add a little bit to what you said in the previous answer. What we end up doing here as parents, as community, is to drive our children to the point of shame. So they don't get pregnant, but instead what they end up doing is they end up consuming over the counter 24-hour pills, over the counter 74-hour, 72-hour pills. And that's far more riskier than probably having, your mother to support you through what you were going to be supported. And the same happens with porn. So one thing that the mothers need to understand about pornography is it's a market produced commercial product. It's not how sex happens in your homes. You know this firsthand. We all know that's not what sex is. That's not what intimacy is. That's not what partnership is. That's not what pleasure is. So, the first thing that you need to get rid of your own biases rather than thinking of it as a taboo, think of it like another product and then say, okay, I don't want my child to have an access to this product. I want my child to use something better. Can you direct them towards literature? Can you ask them why did it happen? And then the child might be ashamed. And I think one of the things that parents really need to do is have negotiate with your children. Like there's this friend of mine who did it with his son when the son became 12-year old. He said, Beta, we will have an open door policy. You will not close your door. But if I see you doing something, we will always have a conversation. I will not scold you. I will not shout at you. You're free to do whatever you will do, but just keep me in the loop so that if I see that something might be harmful for you, I'll come back to you and I'll tell you. And I think that's what is important. Your children need to be able to trust you. Your children need to be able to know that you will not retaliate, you will not get angry, mom is not going to get upset about it. And then I think pornography has its own phase. People lose interest in it beyond a certain point. Most people do. You just need to let them sort of, just tell them that beta, this is not real, this is not how it happens. आपको pleasure चाहिए, अगर pleasure भी चाहिए, so there are safer ways and proper ways of having it. There's a proper age when your body is ready for it. And let us have this conversation at that age. Again, I am not saying this is bad. I am simply saying this is not real and this is not healthy. And that's all you need to do. But the minute you get into, oh, beta, please don't touch, oh, what a bad boy you are, or oh, what a bad girl you are, and how could you do this? Then you've already made your child feel like, oh, my mother judges me. I am never going to go back to her with this conversation. So,
Absolutely. I think Anupama very well explained, very detailed and very well explained. This has happened to I think all of us, and we all have gone through it. We've seen our friends going through it. But when we become mom, we are a changed person. We don't have to be that. Be a mom to a child, which you were searching for when you were a child, is what I always say. So I think if we understand their perspective as well and we don't react much, would be great to have a open conversation again. And Malva, Anupama, throughout this 1 hour of conversation have been again and again putting this, that have a conversation, guys. Don't leave them unanswered. And I think Anupama, if I say that India में हम काफी ज्यादा छोड़ देते हैं कि हमें रिप्लाई ना करना पड़े, एंड हम भागते रहते हैं उन सवालों से, और उसकी वजह से they find the wrong people to get the answers. So I think all of the moms who are listening to us should pledge today that whatever age their kids are, they will have open conversation. If they don't know the answer, they can tell their kids that, guys, or kids or bacha, whatever they call, they can tell them that I don't know the answer of this question, how to explain it to you, exactly how you don't know a question in your school. So I'll find out the answer and I'll come back to you. So you can consult it with somebody who's an expert, and you can explain that in a better format to your kids. Yes, Malwa wants to talk something. Malwa, because we are towards the closure of the talk, with your whatever point you want to express, also give us few your pointers or the closure statements with the 3 pointers which you suggest mommies to take in consideration when they talk about sexuality with their kids. Over to you, Malwa.
You know what? One of the things that you just said, I just wanted to add one more thing, which is, honey, I don't know the answer. It's completely fine as well. But saying, you know what? This is difficult for me too. Okay. I wasn't raised this way that I was able to get answers from my mom and dad. So this is new for me. And if you feel that I'm uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but I'm learning because I want you to have better education than I had. This is also appropriate to tell your child that I'm feeling at ease, but I'm going to do my best. So when you feel, uneasy as well, that's okay. We're in this together. So make sure that you give your child the most open and honest answer about your feelings as well. Now, the second thing is, moms, open your mouth. Dads, open your mouth and start talking to your kids from the very, very beginning. If you are going to be comfortable talking with your little child about their cute little toes, and when they're 2 about their cute little cheeks, and when they're 3 about wash your bum, When they're 14, honey, your breasts are coming in. We need to go get you a bra. When they're 15, sweetheart, we need to talk about contraceptive for boys and girls. Not that you need it, because I hope you can wait, but because I want you to be knowledgeable so you're never in a situation where you don't know what to do. Okay? So whatever your time frame is, if you get yourself acquainted with the vocabulary, with talking with your partner, it will be easier later to talk with your children. There are age-appropriate phrases, explanations, and age-appropriate limitations to information that will help you as a mom and dad get acquainted with the topic later on. I have given you examples about where do babies come from, how you can actually get deeper and deeper into the topic. So this is another thing. And last but not least, sex is fun, okay? If you are culturally, if you are married, sex is fun. So make sure you, mom and dad, explore it as something fun, and then you will be more at ease helping your child understand what are the boundaries, where it's fun, where it's dangerous.
Thank you, Malwa, for explaining it so well. And actually, this has been very, very insightful session for me as well. Apart from understanding that we have to have an open conversation, there is one more thing which Anupama and Malwa are again and again trying to tell us, that have a honest open conversation, guys, which is very important. We are having conversation, but if we are lying and we are not speaking the truth and we are just trying to cook up stories, kids are very smart, believe me. I've gone through all these situations in my life, and then the curiosity grows bigger. So deal it with as early as possible, and try to answer them. And if you don't have the answer, go find it from experts like Malwa and Anupama. So over to you, Anupama, if you can give us some closure, messages for the audience, all the mommies who are listening to us, that what do you say, what is the best way to deal it? In 2-3 pointers would be great. Over to you, Anupama.
So I'll just give three pointers. One of them was going to come across as a shock. First, please watch a little bit. Please read about sexuality, because once you watch porn, you know what you don't want your children to be exposed to. There is porn which is erotic in nature, there is porn which is very gross in nature, there is porn that you absolutely do not want your children to see because it's unhealthy, it's unsafe, it's non-consensual. When you understand the nuances better, you will have more power, you will have more ability and skill to be able to answer questions. That's one. Point number two, uh, it's always okay to say that you did not have access to information and that you are uncomfortable, but you are going to work on yourself and come back to your child, because that also sort of teaches, that sets up a good role model, a good example for the child, and he or she is not shy in saying, okay, I can walk up to my mom, and even if she doesn't know, she'll find out and come back to me. That builds a lot of trust. And the third thing that you really need to learn, and it doesn't come easy, I get that, is to be able to involve other people in conversations when you need them. It takes a village to raise a child. So don't think it's just you who has to do that. You can always come back to the community, you can post a question, you can speak to fellow moms, you can speak to doctors, you can speak to teachers, you can speak to other caregivers. Don't lock the conversation within your house in a closet and say, अरे मेरे बच्चे ने masturbation के बारे में पूछा, मैं अपनी best friend से बोलूंगी तो वो पता नहीं क्या सोचेगी. Don't do that. Because when you are able to reach out to other adults, then you get more perspective and then you are better equipped to go back and answer. So you don't have to raise your child alone. Please don't think this is your lonely journey and a burden that you got to handle. This is a fun experience. You need to enjoy and you need to let other people contribute to your life and your children's life in a constructive
Absolutely.
way, of course.
And I think that's the place where communities come in place, and you can discuss. And it's a only women community. You can openly discuss. It's a non-judgmental space which we are trying to build in. And we're very, very thankful to Malwa and Anupama for joining us for such an insightful session today. I personally have learned so much, and I know how to deal with the questions coming up ahead, because my daughter is 8.5, and believe me, guys, every day it's becoming more and more challenging. We always think that the kids would grow this age and it would be easy, but it becomes challenging every time. So yes, I am dealing with it, and I think lots of takeaways I have taken from Anupama and Malwa today. And thank you everybody for being so patient and listening to us for the whole hour. While it's difficult to be hooked onto screen for so long, people have like really less patience, I guess. And there's so many thank yous and lovely messages coming. They say, Malwa, you are magic. Anupama ji, very good advice. It's a magnetic session, they say, and they're saying that we learned so much today, so it feels very good. Thank you everybody who's joined in, and thank you very much, Malwa, for taking out time, joining us from all the way from Canada. And thank you so much, Anupama, for coming and joining us today. We will be coming up back with more sessions like this, and talk about more topics. Thank you very much for now. Thank you to the audience who joined us today. This was a very interesting topic we came, and this was a topic which we generally don't talk about. And in Unplugged Conversation, we are trying to bring in such topics as we came up with Log Kya Kahenge, and today we spoke about sexuality. So keep writing to us if you think there is any topic we should address. We will, definitely bring in that topic. Thank you very much, and thank you for showering so much love to the community. Stay safe, stay blessed. Goodbye.